be with our meeting today. Mary McCormick, from the Director of Child Welfare and Youth Services. Mark Bello, Harvest House. The Deputy Mayor of Riverview is here with us today. Stephen, and I'm sorry, Cruzales. I hope I'm close, I apologize. Karen Arsenault, the Executive Director of Youth First, Mary Machie. Mike Roy, a provincial consultant with the province. Andrea Best, Executive Director of Moncton Community Residences. Stefan Brubeck, Director of Child and Youth Services. Trevor Goodwin and Jessica Richard with Kodiak RCMP. Lise Duguay and Maurice Michaud, Program Delivery Managers at Social Development. Mike Thiel, Theo Green Accounting. Dave Guthrow, Group Touchette. Karen Haas, a former staff member that traveled in from Nova Scotia to be with us today. And welcome everybody else. Thank you for being here. So we have a couple of points of business to go through to get started. First, could I have a motion that the minutes of the last annual general meeting held on June 20th, 2023 be approved as circulated? There were copies on the table. Can I have a mover? Jonathan. Seconder? Lucy Cote. Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? Perfect. Motion carried. A motion that the actions of the Board of Directors be ratified for the past operating year 2023-2024. Could I have a mover? Dave Niles. Seconder? Jim? Any questions? All those in favor signify by raising your hand, saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the President's report. Youth Impact is always looking at pushing out the front edges of its mission statement to better meet the evolving needs of young New Brunswickers and their families. This year has been another year of diversification and expansion, and the Executive Director, Mel, is going to speak on this in a little bit in his report. Doing things better goes beyond growing larger and developing additional opportunities. It also involves taking a look at what we are already doing as an organization and seeking value-added change. So, during the last year, in fact, a few years, a committee composed of members of the management team completed a detailed review of our operation policy manual. This process took several months, and over the last 4 years, and then the Executive Director worked with the committee chair to fine-tune these policies, ensuring they were accurate and compliant with all government regulations, and reflected a strength-based, person-centered, trauma-informed approach. The Board of Directors ratified these updates to the policies at the end of 2023. As part of a good governance model, and in line with best practices recommended by the Canadian Centre for Accreditation, the Board underwent an introspective exercise. After some discussion with the Board, the Executive Committee put together a board member survey which was circulated before the Christmas holidays. Happy to say there was 100% response from all the Board of Directors, and in March we had a retreat that was held to review the summary of those results. coming from that, there were several recommendations emerged that really related to the mechanics of the board meetings to ensure the board meetings are productive, focused on its responsibilities and youth impact mission. Along with our recommendations for change to the board member recruitment process and practices, we made a number of changes that seem to be working quite well. I want to thank all the board members for contributing to this exercise. In the fall, the board also adopted cyber insurance as part of the organization's coverage protection. And at the end of the fiscal year, job postings went out for a newly created position of assistant manager for each of the residential programs, with the exception of transitional housing. This important step will assist the agency with succession planning, quality control, improved supervision, enhanced service delivery, greater accountability, and so on. Finally, I want to extend my appreciation to my fellow board members for volunteering their time and expertise, to the staff and management team for their hard work and dedication, to all of our government partners and donors for their continued confidence you show in the work of Youth Impact. And to Mel, I'm not sure where he's gone, and to Mel for his continued hard work and dedication to Youth Impact and the youth that it serves. All right. Next, I'm going to invite Jim up to do the treasurer's report.
Hi, my name is Jim Dixon, and however long Peter's been on the board, same for me. We come on a few years ago. So it's my privilege to serve on the board as treasurer. The organization continues to be on solid, I'll say very solid financial ground. The overall increase in revenue from last year was $1,572,000. Total revenues of all our programs for 23-24 amounted to $13,256,000. Just let that sink in for a minute. The agency's total operating surplus for the fiscal year was $87,000, and we fundraised during the year $920,000. The board of directors increased the building fund from $150,000 to $175,000. Youth Impact participated in the coldest night of the year with its national partner, Lucy Foundation. This event, which highlights the issue of youth homelessness, raised $153,000 in funds in February 23, with the agency receiving $130,000 in the current fiscal year. In the coldest night event that was held this past February in 2024, the agency raised $153,000, with revenue to be received in the fiscal year that we're just entering into. We had 375 walkers on 63 teams and 91 volunteers. And of course, we want to thank the many donors who supported this event. Out of 6,322 teams that participated across the country, the Dream Team, based in Moncton here, and organized and ran and encouraged by Ian Franklin, raised funds that were first place in Canada. I forget the exact amount what our team was. I think it was over 50,000, but I'm pleased to say I was part of that team, and personally thank all my friends and associates and business partners that supported that effort. The agency was the recipient of the Home Depot's 2023 Orange Door campaign to end youth homelessness, held both in June and December. We're extremely grateful for the ongoing partnerships with both Lucy and Home Depot. Operating grants for most agency programs received an increase from social development, which enabled the board of directors to approve a $2 per hour increase to all staff effective April 1st, 2023. Salary ranges within the organization were also adjusted at that time. On behalf of the board, staff, and youth we serve, I want to acknowledge the many contributions of Youth Impact's government funders and as many financial and in-kind donors. Your continued confidence, support, and collaboration is greatly appreciated and never to be taken for granted. The board thanks the agency's auditor, KPMG, for the excellent service and consultation provided to Youth Impact this past year. And I'm pleased to advise that KPMG has been reappointed as the organization's auditor for the current fiscal year. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Jürgen Weiland, German name. I'm also part of the board of directors for Youth Impact, and I'd like to share the property report. A big element for Youth Impact that we own many properties. All agency properties receive regular maintenance, attention, and are consistently well maintained. Staff members make a strong effort to ensure a clean, welcoming, and comfortable living accommodation for our youth. Renovation and repair work took place all agency property. There's a lamp here in the way. Renovation and repair work took place at all agency properties as part of Youth Impact's ongoing building maintenance plan. And there have been numerous upgrades to equipment and furnishings at all our locations. These enhancements contribute to a better quality working environment, for sure, for staff members, as well as improved living accommodations for youth in the care of the organization. A new home on Dever Road in the west side of St. John was purchased in 2023. And this property underwent already right away out of the start a renovation project of $150,000 in worth of renovations to customize the home to accommodate the service of respite resource. Other notable renovations in the agency include new flooring and windows at administration, a new kitchen at Priestman, and new drain tiles at Main Street, and paving at Dufferin Road. All agency inventories were updated and videotaped in March for insurance purposes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm going to read you the personnel report. Professional development remains one of Youth Impact's top priorities with its personnel. Multiple members of the management team completed leadership development programs offered through LMI Canada. Trauma-informed care training continued throughout this reporting period. In addition to its own staff, Youth Impact provided this valuable training to Center for Youth Care and Youth First Miramichi. E-learning continues to be a cornerstone of professional development in the agency, with more courses being added to Relias. A new residential program was introduced in the west side of St. John at the end of this reporting, which resulted in recruiting an entirely new team that went through 2 weeks of training prior to the opening of the program on April 1st in 2024. I want to welcome these individuals to the organization, and I wish them every success in their Youth Impact journey. A new position of training coordinator was created in the latter part of this reporting period. Miranda Reeves was promoted to this position, and she is responsible for coordinating the organization's internal training practices. This will include orientation, onboarding, and mentorship. Further changes to the management team this past year include the following appointments. Byron Rain assumed the role of Program Manager at Youth Quest Central in Moncton. Robert Steele assumed the role of Program Manager at Vincent Road in Quispamsis. Kaylee Sears returned from maternity leave to assume the role of Program Manager at Cumberland Road in Wards Creek. and Paula Medford was hired as program manager at Dever Road in St. John. One individual was promoted to a level 2 youth care worker. The winner of last year's Board of Directors Award was Susanna Greenwood, and honorable mentions were Charlene Melanson and Connie Marbury. Congratulations to each of these individuals who received promotions and recognition. Thank you to all staff members for their continued dedication and passion for supporting the young people obtaining services from Youth Impact.
Okay, so, pretty exciting stuff. Now we're gonna have a quiz, and we're gonna have a winner. So who can tell me what Jim said the revenue was for, I'm just kidding. Oh, Mel's back, perfect. Mel had to step out. I just had to kind of fill in a little bit of time, but we're good to go now. So, next, we will move on to staff member achievement and a recognition part of our meeting. So we're going to start with the advancement within the agency's level system. So I'm pleased to congratulate Ashley Belleville, who achieved a level 2 designation this past year. Ashley, I'm not sure if you're present or not.
I have a baby.
Right. Ashley's not, but congratulations, Ashley. We'll make sure she gets her certificate. Next is going to be the years of service. For these, I'm going to read out the names for those that have achieved 3 years of service and 5 years of service. And the certificates and the gifts will be passed out a little bit later, okay? So you don't need to come up for that. At the 10-year mark and above, we will ask those staff members to please come up at that time. All right. So for 3 years of service, Melanie Lorette, Faith Peltier, Justin Perron, Tracy Donnelly, Bonnie McLeod, James Brathwaite, Shyla Smith, Rachel McDougall, Brittany Kahn, Hosanna Arab Khan, Ashley Belleville, Kai Alloway, Kaylee Crozier, Cody Fagan, Kimberly Arsenal, Corey Christie, Patricia McKim, Christopher Gould, Norman McKenzie, Katie Williams, Bonnie Bond, and Eugene McKim. 5 years of service, Amy Cameron Dupuy, Elaine Daigle, Jacqueline Sullivan, Robin Saunier, Jacob Sisk, Eden Anderson, Cody Guyan, Bria Edison, Mackenzie Mullen, Brandon Motor, and Rochelle May Limbuga. Congratulations, everybody. For 10 years of service, if you're here, please come up and see Mel, Chantal Bosk, Tara Milburn, and then Marilee McLeod. Is Marilee here? Okay. 15 years of service. Judith Duplessis? No? Congratulations, Judith. Matthew Brennan. "35 years of service." Lori Milton. Lori here? Okay. And I'll just take a minute to also recognize Michelle Duffy, who has served on the board of directors for 5 years. Michelle's not here today, but thank you to Michelle. Next, board member Lucy Cote is going to come up and talk about the scholarship for Youth Impact.
Hi, everybody. Next, I want to speak to you about a scholarship that Youth Impact gives out each year to a deserving high school graduate. Vicki Babineau was the executive secretary at Youth Impact for an amazing 25 years. And she's one of those people that you'll never forget if you've met her. During her years of service, Vicki demonstrated a strong interest and pride in contributing to helping young people move forward in life. Our dear friend and colleague passed away in April 2015. To honor her memory, a $1,000 scholarship has been created in her name. I am pleased to announce that Lily Proudfoot, who is about to graduate from Harrison Trimble High School, is a recipient of the 9th annual Vicki Lynn Babineau Memorial Scholarship for 2024. Lily will be entering into studies in the field of social work at St. Thomas next fall. Although she was unable to join us today, I want to convey my congratulations and wish Lily all the best in her university career.
All right, next I'll call on Mel to deliver the program and executive director reports.
Okay, so here's your program report. All programs that were operational at Youth Impact at the time of the last AGM continue to thrive and prosper. The Community Outreach Resource Family Preservation began serving families in the fall of 2023. This program is designed to strengthen the integrity of the family unit and reduce the possibility of another home placement. This year, a second staff member will be added to the program to respond to the growing need for this service. Throughout the last fiscal year, the development of a new respite resource for young people in adoption care was underway. An operating budget was negotiated, and then a very extensive house search was conducted. In November, the agency succeeded in acquiring a property on Deborah Road on the west side of St. John. This home underwent very extensive renovation to customize it to become a respite resource for young people ranging from ages 2 to 19 who are living with adoptive parents. A staff team was hired in March, and the service had a soft launch at the very beginning of April. This is a 5-bed home with one of the beds designated as an emergency bed. So the service started with a capacity of 2. It's very recently eased up to 3, and they'll soon be functioning at full capacity at 5 young people. So typically, children and youth will come for stays of 2 days at a time in varying frequencies to provide a needed break for adoptive parents, and this service will help to maintain the integrity of these family homes. So it was a long time coming. A house search began in Charlotte County as well in January of 2024 with the intention of establishing a 3-bed respite resource, basically to replicate the program that we have that I just spoke of on Deborah Road for young people, in this case, residing in the Charlotte County area. And as we speak, this search continues to be underway. Who would have thought it would be so difficult to find a home in St. Stephen or what have you, but it is, I assure you. So Amenity Health Foundation, they provided very generous grant to Youth Impact early this year to subcontract mental health counseling services for young people and at the resource in Moncton known as Youth West Central. So this service was put in place at the beginning of October and it's going to continue right through until March of 2025, and hopefully there'll be a possibility of extending that. The agency operated a provincial stabilization service as a pilot project for the entire reporting period, achieving all the desired outcomes. A request for proposals was issued for all 4 zones of social development in December. Today, the only contract that's been awarded is in the northern zone. The service operated by Youth Impact will continue to serve all regions until new services in each zone can be established, which is the game plan. Through a grant provided by the City of Moncton, Youth West Central Resource Center was able to add 1.5 positions, which allow the drop-in center to really extend its hours by about 18 additional hours per week. It's open 7 days a week now, so we're thrilled about that. Regarding residential programs, the person-centered care manual was revised to include a measurement tool surrounding day-to-day engagement and successes. So this helps to further embed approaches that are strength-based as well as trauma-informed. The agency has continued to explore an expansion of its transitional housing program. So at the end of this reporting period, several partnerships, provincial and with foundation and federal government and budding relationships with municipal government as well have been established. So I'm very hopeful that I'm going to have a real positive outcome to report in our next AGM regarding the expansion of this transitional housing program. So here we come to the executive director's report. So at Youth Impact, of course, we do make every effort to infuse passion and inspire our employees and to add as much as we can to the warmth and professionalism of our culture. But oftentimes, really, it all comes down to the executive director's report, which is the quintessential motivational speech of the whole year. So I like to think, and I get calls as early as February actually asking me about this. Mind you, they're all from Tracy Cormier asking me to come up with a theme yet. And once we get that out of the way, but just for insurance purposes and so on, liabilities, I just needed to give you a warning that this has been known to be a life-changing speech for some people. So for all you executive director report versions out there, I'm glad you're sitting down. There we go. So I call this expanding comfort zones. So getting outside one's comfort zone is one of those catchphrases that we hear all the time. It's been used a great deal. It feels somewhat burdensome and uncomfortable by definition, and downright scary for many. But what if we repackage the same concept into expanding our comfort zones? It's totally different, right? Now it sounds appealing, inviting, and heart-stirringly exciting. Expanding our comfort zones is growth in disguise. It's pushing beyond limits and becoming better versions of ourselves. It's having a constructive discontent with what is and pursuing what could be. One of Youth Impact's core convictions is that the essence of quality is constant improvement. The organization embraces this concept at every level. The board of directors, the management team, and frontline caregivers of Youth Impact believe that every young person deserves the right to make their life a better one. Understanding this why of what we do every day makes the how of what we do so much easier because of the passion and the value that it inspires. Expanding comfort zones applies equally to Youth Impact's secret weapon, which of course is the staff team of 277 individual members. Our staff team is really in essence the personification of Youth Impact. By investing in the growth and development of our staff team, the organization reaches into new territory and is never trespassing to go beyond our own boundaries. By doing so, we've become more than we were. What is hard becomes easier, and what was elusive becomes within our grasp. When I think of what I call Youth Impact country, I think of physical presence and diversity of service offering. In 2023-24, the organization opened a respite service in St. John for children living with intellectual and physical disabilities who are residing with adoption families, as well as other child and youth programs within social development. All at the same moment, the agency expanded its physical presence, it grew its staff team, it extended its reach in its continuum of service offerings, and it redefined its age range to children as young as 2 years old and going up to age 25 to get in line with new legislation that you're going to be hearing about in just a moment. In the coming fiscal year, The agency will establish a new service in Charlotte County, which will give Youth Impact a physical presence in 8 New Brunswick communities. Expanding comfort zones to become more than we are has no downside and almost unlimited upside. I wish this for all of our stakeholders and thank them for being part of the Youth Impact experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. At this time, I call for a motion that these AGM reports be moved as presented. Moved by Danielle Bernard, seconded by Jürgen Wheeler. Any questions? All those in favor, signify aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next, we're on to the Board of Directors Award. So the Board of Directors Award is intended to recognize employees that have demonstrated that they have advanced Youth Impact's philosophy of helping young people succeed. This is purposely broad and can take on many different forms. It can be demonstrated in one's daily approach and attitude in their work with youth and families. It can be based on a single occurrence that was remarkable. It can be an example of leadership, mentorship, creativity, caring, capacity building, role modeling, coaching, team building. It can go on and on. It's just the value that is brought forward every day. So the nominations are submitted by other employees to the executive director, who then passes them on to the Employee Advisory and Wellness Committee, who then take them, review them, and then they give the Board of Directors a short list of 3 people. And let me tell you, every year that I've done it, it's been one of the most difficult decisions. And this year was no different. But we did review the list of finalists, and the Board of Directors Award was selected the winner for 2023. To begin with, I would like to congratulate this year's 2 honorable mentions. And if they could please come up when I give their names and receive their certificates, Amanda Fielding and Chantal Bask. I'm pleased to announce the winner of the Board of Directors Award for 2024, Miranda Reeves. I'm going to give a little bit of background on our winner, Miranda.
This is Miranda. I want her to come up on stage. Everybody can see Miranda. So the nomination is full of inspiring news. I'm going to have to give you the abridged version. So Miranda came to work for us a few years ago. Hopefully a bright spot in her career. It certainly was a bright spot for the organization. She began as an instructor and youth care worker within the Corridors program, so she worked in combination with the teacher at the time, and that was a program that was put together with a partnership between Youth Impact, United Way, and the Department of Education, so I'm all from that learning side. So regarding in that position, she demonstrated exceptional skills in building positive relationships with youth. That is kind of what we do, and she does it exceptionally well. Managing and de-escalating crisis behaviors and developing programming activities to help build skills and address challenges that were often roadblocks for these young people in terms of receiving education. So she helped to make what was not possible for them. More recently, she was the successful applicant of a very newly created training position, training coordinator position, and during her short time in this role, she's made excellent use of her skills, and she's developed a significantly helpful in-person training for orientation of all our new staff members. And I've attended that training myself, and it really is so inspiring and so insightful, and so much she packs in there in a couple of days. Throughout her training, she certainly developed, as in the training that she provides, she is demonstrating and reinforcing most of the core convictions actually that the agency holds dear. Not only does this manifest itself in materials that are presented, but she's also role modeling through how she does this, how she puts this information together, and that she conveys. So she exemplifies ongoing learning and constant improvement. Ongoing improvement, building inclusive and engaging relationships, heavy consideration to what is in the best interest of the youth. She's very open to giving and receiving feedback, and she applies a high standard to all of the work that she completes and works collaboratively with others. I could go on, but I think that pretty much says it all. Congratulations, Brandon.
And now I'll call on Mel again to introduce our guest speaker for the day.
Okay, the moment you really all been waiting for. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mary McCormick. Mary is a social worker by profession, and she's currently Provincial Director for Child and Youth Wellbeing for Child Welfare. And she works at the Central Office of the Department of Social Development. Mary's worked with child welfare programs for almost 35 years. 31 of these have been at the regional office in Miramichi, and for the last 4 years at the Central Office of Social Development in Fredericton. Mary started working with children in youth and care in 1989, where she says she saw the importance of our work in helping children, youth, and families. And she says she learned from the best, and by that she means from the youth, from foster parents, and from group home staff. Mary continued in various roles such as adoption, foster care, child protection, investigation, and ongoing services, family supports for children with special needs, family group conference, and she has held frontline as well as various management roles in her career. She's proud to share that she's from a family of 12 children, which is pretty remarkable these days, and that she and her partner live in Miramichi, and their daughter lives nearby. Mary's happy and feels very privileged to be here with us today, so I would like everybody to join me in welcoming our guest speaker, Mary McCormick.
Hi, everyone. It's very intimidating, though, to hear be referred to as guest speaker, because really, I had, like, as Peter referenced to himself, you know, he's not a guest speaker, neither am I. I'm one of those government people that want to talk to you about a story, but a really important story. And I will absolutely do my best. And like Peter, we're both from Miramichi, so how cool is that? To meet a neighbor as I'm sitting here. I'm so delighted to be here. I feel very privileged. And as I was sitting there, I'm so nervous. And I'm like, why am I so nervous? And the truth of it is because I'm with you. People that look these kids in the eye every single day, go up to their bedrooms as they're upset or taking them to school or whatever the case may be. So you know what the work is really like. And I strive to, like many of us do. And so I want to take a moment just to really thank you for the work that you do. And Mel is correct. I am from a family of 12. I'm the second youngest in a family of 12, and my mom was the second youngest in a family of 12. So they used to tell me I was going to have 12. I'm like, no, like that's not going to happen. But when I started working with the Department of Social Development, I started working with kids in permanent care. So children that could no longer live with their parents because of abuse or neglect or situations. And to be quite frank, I couldn't believe it. We were poor in my family, but somebody always had our back, sometimes too many people. And I was from a small community, so there was a lot of people checking in for us. And as I sat here today and I looked around at all of us, I'm thinking of two things that I know for sure we all have in common, is that we've all been children and we've all been youth. And I bet you every single person in this room has had someone who's had their back. If there's anybody in the room who has gotten to this moment without one person having their back, I would love for you to challenge me on it. Because I believe we all come together and we're privileged enough to meet with these children and youth, and we can be the person to have their back. And you, youth care workers, every single day, and all of you that are working with those that are homeless, have their back. And when I sat down beside Natasha, I asked her, Natasha, what do you like about your job anyway? And she said, I really like that I can see the humanness in people. If you don't mind, Natasha. And she said, a lot of times, the people that I work with that are homeless, as you know, are judged, and people don't see them anymore. And she said, I find when I start treating them like humans, I can see change happening. And there's actually evidence through research that shows the greatest change, the greatest factor that creates change is the relationship that we have with someone. Progress and change happens at the speed of trust. So if we have a relationship with someone where someone believes that we have their back, they will invest into themselves. So thank you, Natasha, and all the others who have invested in that relationship and sees the person and not the behavior and the ugly hair and all the other stuff that goes with it. I also want to acknowledge the board and all the business partners and the larger community that's here, because you've set the stage and the leadership for people to have flexibility and creativity and courage to do the work. And if you didn't do that, your employees simply couldn't shine. You are a provincial leader throughout the province, and we simply could not do our work without you. So thank you for being committed, invested. Board, partners, your community of Moncton, I'm very appreciative, and to our own SD staff that are here. I'm here giving voice to it, but all of us are leaders in the same way and believe in the work in the same way. Okay, I better get going, or we won't be, or it truly will be an all-afternoon deal. Just to give you, Mel told me, do not talk about statistics, but I am going to give a little bit. Right now, we have about 1,200 children in the province that cannot live with their parents. And they live in various situations outside of the family home. And we have about 38 group homes. We have about 220 kids between the ages of 16 and 19 that are in our YES program, Youth Engagement Services, which really means they can't live at home either because of abuse or neglect. And then you know all the numbers when it comes to homelessness or not. We have 39 children in care right now that are involved in post-education. It's a pretty small number, it's probably less than 2%. But you'll see through the legislation that we're moving forward in a better way for education. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the legislation, if I can figure out how to work this machine. I might need to be reset. So really, this is just to remind us as to why did we even bother making changes to the legislation. The legislation was 40 years old, the Family Services Act, had never been changed. And really the reason is, as written in the purple, is because we want best outcomes for children. We wanted to have the authority from legislation to say, yes, we can actually do this work. And it all comes down to the children and youth, or why bother? The pictures that you see are actually kids that were in foster care and drew pictures for us about what it's like to be in care. Oh my God, like, techie, I'm not. What am I doing wrong?
There you go.
There. So, Mel had reminded me as well, a few months ago we met and I spoke about how this new act that we were having was, it was all like we're all pregnant, waiting for this 9-month act for this to be proclaimed. Well, on January 26th of 2024, the act came early. So it was like this premature baby, and none of us were really prepared for it. So please don't be surprised if you don't know lots about the act, maybe bits and pieces. We're really just trying to put it together. The act is great to sit and learn more about it. I'm just going to give you some highlights. One of the things that we're mandated by law now, me and you, is to make sure that we hear the voice of the child in everything that we do. The Family Services Act was very centered around parents' rights. And that even in situations where we thought maybe it wasn't best for children, the Family Services Act, we really had to lean towards parents. This act is really about the rights of the child. And obviously the rights of the child includes parents, but it's really about listening, making sure that their voice is included in everything that we do. The other thing that's really cool about this act, it is about protection, but it's also about well-being. So not just being safe, but really what helps you thrive. So if you can imagine your own children or nieces or nephews, what do you hope and aspire for them? That's what we hope and aspire for all the people that we encounter. Early intervention and early detection, which is really prevention. And that's really why the act is very exciting too, because before the act was really about protection. Did something bad happen, go in and try to fix it and make it better and close. And now it's all about protection, yes. When children are unsafe, we absolutely need to make sure they're safe. But what can we do beforehand in order to prevent homelessness, to prevent abuse, in order to prevent families from breaking up? What can we do before? So that's really where we're trying to focus some energy, is on prevention, or that's where we will be. And again, this is by law. And another big component of the act is about multidisciplinary teams and sharing of information. And we've heard this from you, we've heard this from our MLAs, we've heard it from everyone. If we're gonna work together, we need to be able to share information. So the act actually gives us the authority to reach out to community partners, reach out to other government departments and ask for information. It also gives you the authority to give information back to us, so that if we're working together with a child or youth or family, information can be freely shared. That can be a game changer, because sometimes it gets in the way if we're not sharing information. Young adults, I'm going to speak to that on the next slide. And then there's other components there that are super important that you'll learn as we go along and give sessions on the act. 3 probably big things is a place of safe and secure care. You may have heard about this as a place of supportive care, you may have heard about it as secure care. So when the act was first legislated, it came out as secure care. And really, it's a locked facility for those situations for youth that are just horribly unsafe in the community because they're being exploited and they're just simply unsafe. However, it's with integrated service delivery, it's very much supported, it's with a court order, so we just can't go do it on our own. We as a group need to be working together to say why it's important, and we need to be working with the youth to get them the supports and the help that they need. We engaged our Partners for Youth and the Youth and Care Network and said, could you go out to the youth and ask them about the act? What do they think of it? And one of the things the youth came back to us and said, you're calling it secure care, what are you trying to do, put us in prison? You know? And they said, like, if you're just trying to help us be safe, why aren't you calling it that? So we actually went back and changed the law in order to call it safe and supportive care, to reflect really that's what we want to do. So again, just that power of having that youth's voice. So what our plan is over the next year is to have one safe and supportive care for the province that we're going to do as a pilot, because obviously we've heard concerns about it and we've also heard good things. So we're going to try it in collaboration with mental health and addiction and some of our other partners. So that will be coming. The other is the child and youth voice, the child and youth rights. Our child and youth rights were never part of our act before. It's very clear in the Child and Youth Wellbeing Act that we have to ensure that children and youth rights are protected and that we're acting on them. So their right to be in school, their right to have mental health supports, their right to have extracurricular activities, their right to have their culture. So as we're developing programs and as you're working with them, it's like, how can we all work together to make sure that that's happening? Then the Youth and Young Adult program, that program has really expanded. It's a new program for the Act. And now we can support youth from the age to 16 to 26, youth and young adults. Previously called YES, or Youth Engagement Services. Some of the quick hits that's already happening is that you don't have to wait 3 months to get support. You can get it the day you call, which makes a whole lot more sense. You do not have to be registered in a school program. We want to work with you to help you get your education, but you don't have to be, we want to take you where you're at. And the Act actually allows us to do that, which is really, really fabulous. And it's all those things that you've told us when we were in engagement sessions with you. You can live with a roommate. So it's a lot more flexible in this youth and young adult program. What you're going to see, if you haven't already seen them, is the model is built on the 8 transitions to adulthood. And this really comes from Dr. Melanie Doucette, who used to be a youth in care in New Brunswick from the peninsula. And she talks about people that helped her in her journey and people that didn't. And she is now, she has her PhD. She did a lot of research with the Youth and Care Network in Canada, and really looked at the evidence for youth leaving care. And unfortunately, when youth were leaving at 18, they were 20 to 30% more likely to end up in homelessness. They have a greater risk of mental health and addiction issues. They're more likely to live in poverty. They are more likely to come back into our system. Like, I don't know about you, no, actually I do know. None of us want those statistics for our youth in care. So New Brunswick has agreed to work with Melanie, and I would invite you, if you ever want to meet with her, we can arrange for that to happen, virtually or whatnot. And there's 8 pillars that focuses on all of the things that all of us need to have ready in our own life to become adult. So whenever we're working with youth, and as they move into the age of 26, so anytime from the age of 14 up to 26, we want to make sure that they're secure financially, that they have education, that they have supports, and all of the pillars that are there. And that's over the next while what we'll be asking our partners that you either continue to do, or the areas that we're not doing it, that we do it for our youth, and with our youth as well. Oh my goodness. 2 slides, and that is it. And then you get to go to the sun. So, really, why the heck bother with this? Like, why would you or me or any of us really be invested in it? And our deputy minister says to me all the time, like, Mary, what are you doing that for anyway? What's the point? What's your North Star? What are you reaching for? And really what we're reaching for here in New Brunswick is the best outcomes for children and youth. What we know that if you're in the care of the province, you do not have the same opportunities as most of our children and youth, our sons and daughters. That's not right. So we're trying to make it more equitable for our youth and our kids in care. So everything that we're doing, we need to be asking, is that going to help our youth do better in school? Is it going to help them get a job? Is it going to help them know that somebody cares about them? And if it doesn't, we want to stop doing it. So what's going to happen over the next couple months is we're going to have a strategic, a 3-month plan that everybody will have to have, we can have a copy of, that we'll be able to get feedback from you as to what you think. We'll be focusing on these 6 areas. 1, we want you and me and all of us to help keep vulnerable kids in school. And when they're not in school, that they actually do have partial school plans. I'm sure you heard from the Child Youth Advocate a couple weeks ago in his report that kids in New Brunswick that are in care today, their last week, kids in care have 20% more partial school days than their peers. So we want to change that. We want to look at activities we can do to keep kids in school because we know they're safer and they'll have better outcomes. We also want to figure out how to even have stronger and better partnerships. We know that the government can't do it as well as our partners in the community. So we want to figure out how do we do partnerships that look different with you. A few weeks ago, I got to sit at a table with Mark Belleville. I don't know if he's still here or not, but he was exploring and challenging with us, like, how can we change policies where we, the non-government people, can be sitting with you and letting you see how your policies are impacting youth and young adults on the street. We want to do that and then build it together. Rather than us government coming and saying, this is what we think, this is what we're going to do, give us your thought, and away we go, and we've already had it done. To move away from that. Moving into prevention, as I mentioned earlier, so early help, and that's really at the front door when you call and you say I have a concern for someone. Really looking at us providing a service or someone in the community providing the service right then and there, rather than this great big assessment. Intensive family interventions, because the research shows that if you spend 9 to 12 months with families in a very intensive way, they're less likely to end up in child protection. And right now we don't provide the service unless it goes to child protection. So how could we or community provide that service? And you're already doing it in some of your reunification and some of your family, I'm forgetting the word, preservation programs. And then strengthening families, and families who adopt, families who are fostering, making sure that they get support. When kids do come in care, we really are going to focus on kinship. If I asked any of you today that if something happened to you, and let's hope it doesn't, but we never know, do we? If something happened to any of us today, would we be raising our hand for our child to go with someone they don't know? Or is there a coach or a neighbor or an aunt or a grandparent or a cousin or a worker? So we're really going to try to expand it so that kids can live with people that they know, whether they're relatives or not, because kids have better outcomes. And focusing group homes really on being very therapeutic, very intentional, very targeted. And we're even trying to imagine, like, all these beautiful staff like yourself out there, how can we do more to have staff like yourselves helping families, like you're doing with your respite care and things like that. And then the other that we'll really be focusing on is kids leaving care. And even before they leave care, what do our programs say? How many kids when they leave your program are into education, training, or some type of learning, or some type of employment? So we'll really be looking for those types of activities. There is a community, a city called Leeds in the UK, and back several years ago, they had kind of like an evaluation board at the hospitals who went in and evaluated their child welfare system, and they were scored as poor performing. They focused on school, keeping families together, and kinship, and they're now outstanding in their rating, and they have been for the last several years. But it wasn't just the Leeds, it was a whole community coming together and saying, we're gonna go in the same direction to support children and youth. And my very last slide truly is just a very sincere thank you to everybody once again. This is just a small piece of what the Act is about. The Act gives us the authority, but you and I both know that a piece of paper is a lovely thing and it can be a great document. It's really about how we intervene and how we are with each other and with the children, youth, and the families that we meet. And so I truly believe, and I know if we're all flowing in the same direction and rowing in the same direction, beautiful things can happen. And so anytime you want to learn more about the Act, Mike, the other consultants I know would be more than pleased. I know that the zone staff would be very, very pleased to help with that. I do once again want to thank the board. I absolutely want to thank you, Mel. You're a leader in so many ways, not just here in Moncton, but throughout the province. And when I think of the Provincial Association, it just wouldn't be possible without your support. And for all the business leaders, government departments, all of our offices, like truly, it is a big team. But I do want to go back to the staff though, and the staff that meet the person with the eye, and for whatever reason, 35 years later, when I first started working, this teen said to me, F, Mary, if you're not gonna leave me with your mother or with my mother, you better offer me something different. And when a kid looks you in the eye and tells you that, it makes you think, it touches your heart a little bit. And a few weeks ago, and some of you may have been there was a person that spoke here in Moncton on homelessness. And he had been homeless himself, and I'm horrible with names, and I don't remember his name. But he talked about meaningful relationships and how you have that moment in time that can change your trajectory of life. And I would just like to truly thank you, those of you that look clients, especially clients, I'm not going to call them clients because they're people, that look the youth and the young adults in the eye, and that you see behind all the stuff, and you see the person in them. And during the hard, tough times, I just hope you can remember that you are making an impact, and you may never ever know it, but it could absolutely it does make a change in that person's life. So thank you for that. You truly are the heroes of this story. Merci beaucoup. Have a great day, everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Mary. That was very exciting to hear about the changes that are coming, and I can't agree more. Your folks that look after these youth and look them in the eye, wow, you're inspirational. Now, I'm going to call on Dave Niles to come up and give the nominating report that was put together by Damien Lake, your incoming president.
Very quickly, don't want to wait, folks. We got 60 seconds left. That's all this will take. This has to do with the board of directors. The following persons are proposed to serve as directors for the operating year 24-25. Retiring this year, Michelle Duffy and Marilyn Holyoke. Returning directors, some of us are like weeds on your front lawn. You can keep coming back every year. Jim Dixon, Jürgen Weiland, Lucie Cote, Danielle Bernard, Damon Liaton, Dave Niles, Peter Stevens, Eric Lavose, and Jonathan Hines. And we have two new directors recently having joined the board, José Cremier and Natasha Campo. Are there any further nominations? I've got to ask 3 times. Are there any further nominations? And third time, are there any further nominations? I declare nominations cease. Executive directors are proposed for the next year coming up as follows. As president, Mr. Damien Leadon, vice president, Jürgen Weiland, and treasurer, Jim Dixon. I would like to move that this slate of officers and directors be approved as presented. Do I have a seconder from the board? Jonathan, thank you. I'll pass it back to the president.
Any questions? No questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carried. Perfect. Thank you very much. Almost there. I'm just going to close with a few words of appreciation. So thank you to Legends for putting on a wonderful meal and having this all set up and ready to go today. Thank you to all those that helped with the preparations, getting everything here, having everything set up. And really, to all the staff for everything you do for the youth in our care. Thank you to my fellow members of the board for your dedication, your volunteering, and the time that you give up, and the effort that you put in to everything that we do. And most of all, thank you all for coming out to our 39th annual meeting. Have a great day. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Great job. Great job.